So the one good thing that can be said about the vaping community is that it is international. And we're coming out with brand new hardware all the time from pretty much every corner of the world. Today we're going to be talking about a brand new RDTA coming from a company called EHPRO out of Shenzhen, China. The Big Bear, baby. Let's do this. What is happening through the fog, Vape fam? Joe of All Vapes coming at you. If this is your first time catching one of my reviews, then smash on that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the latest and greatest and in-depth vaping reviews of all types and kinds. You know what I'm saying? It has been an amazing 2017 so far. Got a bunch of amazing e-juice, got some awesome hardware coming up in the making. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about some awesome hardware today. The EHPRO Big Bear Dual Tank RDTA. This thing is about as awesomely cool as it looks. And if you can't get a real good look of it right there, but look, okay, hang on, there we go. All right, get yourself a little bit of a close-up going on right there. Two different tanks, capacity 4 milliliters total, gives you the opportunity to not only vape your ADV, but gives you the opportunity to vape 2 ADVs at the same time or one at a time. And the cool thing is about this, what am I saying? It's got plenty of cool things about this. I have tested this thing out for probably the better part of about 3 weeks, and I can honestly say I find 0 issues with this badass little tank. Solid cloud production, solid flavor production, and gives you the opportunity to truly DIY 2 different flavors at the same time. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of this tank in typical Joe of All Vapes fashion. Get yourself a nice tight close-up of the EHPRO Big Bear 4 milliliter dual tank RDTA. Let's do this. All right, so let us do this. Now first of all, EHPRO is a relatively brand new company, at least for the US market. Not very well known, but I had the great fortune of getting a couple products from them to be able to review for you guys. And these are pretty innovative products. They've got a ton of different RDAs, RDTAs, different kinds of tanks, all kinds of cool stuff. And I've been assured that I'll be getting in some more stuff to review for you guys. So this is going to be a cool opportunity for me and for you guys. So let us take a look at the Big Bear RDTA from EHPRO. Take off the box here. First of all, you're going to get your tiny little amazing EHPRO user manual. And it's just going to give you pretty much the ins and outs and the basics of everything that goes into this tank. Very easy to understand. Drip tip, top cap, air intake, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you've seen all this kind of stuff before. This comes apart in multiple parts, and it really just has an amazingly simple interface. I mean, this stuff is not difficult to understand. And one of the biggest pet peeves that I have is whenever I get brand new hardware, some of the stuff is just really difficult to understand and kind of figure out. But EHPRO has made it incredibly simple to figure this stuff out. So first of all, as you can see, you got the tank, obviously. You get yourself an extra glass sleeve. For those of us that are clumsy and just prone to break these things, you know, for the life of me, I've never broken a single one of these things, but, you know, evidently some people do. Of course, you're going to get your little baggie of replacement goodies, okay? You're going to get some replacement O-rings to go into there, and they're going to give you a couple of, it looks like some fused Claptons. And they're going to give you a variety of different coils that you have here you can kind of play around with. A couple of fused Claptons and a couple of just plain old, good old-fashioned, straight-up single coil designs, okay? And then, of course, you're going to get the individual juice tank stopper, and that pretty much stops the flow of either one of the sides of the dual tank design. We'll get a little bit more in-depth into that. I'm going to take that out, stick that aside so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about later. And of course, you've got your Allen screw wrench. I'm going to take that bad boy out because we're going to use that in just a bit here. I'm going to pop out the tank, and I'm going to show you what exactly it is that we're talking about here. Okay, so that is the Big Bear in all its glory. And incidentally, don't worry about the condensation that you see in there. I gave this bad boy a quick wash just so I could show you guys what was going on with the Big Bear. Now, first of all, this is 25 millimeters in diameter. So this is kind of a fat boy. You're not gonna want to, put this on any mech mod unless you've got at least a 24 to 25 millimeter mech. I advise most people use a high unregulated or regulated that works up to about 200 watts. I think that's going to give you the best threshold for the best flavor in terms of coil design. Okay, you've got a removable drip tip, standard removable drip tip. You'd be able to interchange those about as much as you possibly want, okay? We're going to take off the top portion here. Boom, just like that. Now, this is the air intake. You look on the inside, you can kind of see how the construction works with that. So this is pretty simple. All you got to do is take the top portion here and just twist it one way or the other to adjust the air intake. I usually go to about a 50% air intake. Just because of the coil design that I use, I usually bust up to about 75 to 80 watts. And, you can play around with this stuff to your liking. You can pretty much open it up all the way and just let in a ton of air to get a ton of cloud. But I don't have that large of a lung capacity, so I usually keep it up at about 50%. Now we're going to look at the rest of the design here. First of all, we've got an upper and a lower coil mounting position, and I think this is really, really cool. The coolest aspect about this is that you've got a couple Allen screws on the top, and then you've got a couple more Allen screws, one on each side. So you can load one from the top on one side, either side really, and then load the bottom one with, and then tighten it up with these side Allen screws, which I'm going to show you that a little bit later. We're actually going to mount some coils and some fresh cotton on this bad boy and get this thing working. Okay, you have a screw-on little collar that just kind of keeps everything nice and tight. We're going to take that bad boy off, and then we're just going to pull off the centerpiece here. Nice black O-ring washer that keeps this thing pretty sealed and tight, okay? So you're not going to get any leakage off of this. Now, here's the dual tank design that I was telling you about. Now, each one of the sides of this fills at about a 2 milliliter capacity. So you're working at a total of 4 milliliters. I know I've got some smaller tanks that I like to use that are about 2.5 to 3 milliliters. So this keeps you going pretty solidly for a decent amount of time. And then of course you've got the removable glass tube. So this is pretty much all of it in a nutshell. This is a very stout design. This is definitely not cheap by any means. You're not gonna break this, you're not gonna bend it unless you, really just treat the thing like crap. Okay, so we're gonna put the glass tube right back on. And the cool thing about this is you've got these two little internal slots on the inside of the bottom sleeve here. And basically what they do is they just line up with the sides of the RDTA right here. So I'm just gonna kind of slide it around a little bit until I get the locking point in place and just stick it right back down on top there. Now at this point, it's going to be easiest that you leave the screw and collar off, because what we're going to do is we're going to mount the coils on this bad boy. Now, first of all, once you have it in this position, there are two ways that you can fill this. The easiest way that I find is basically just to fill the tank through these little holes right here, but you got to make sure that you do not come above the actual fill line on the actual fill hole. So this is side filling. And I've seen a few RDTA designs that allow for side filling. Most of them have kind of a locking position to do that, but this one does not. Okay, these holes are pretty much open 24/7, okay? So it allows you for easy filling, but the good thing is, unless this thing is laying on its side and your entire mod is on its side, you're not gonna spill any of this juice, okay? It's really not gonna come out. It's a very stout design, like I said, but the easiest way to fill it initially when you're swapping out coils for fresh cotton is just to put the juice straight in these little juice wells right here. It gives you the biggest amount of opening, and it just allows you to get a solid amount of juice in there without dripping too much down the tank when you're loading this up. Okay, so at this point what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to mount a couple of coils on this bad boy. I've actually got some of the coils that I've been using for this. This one I'm going to stick right on the top. As you can see, it's a pretty easy load. Okay, so I'm going to take my little Allen wrench and just give this guy a little twist. Okay, so boom, nice and tight on that one. Let's get a little tighter shot. There we go. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of push that end to make sure that the outer sleeve does not touch the coil. Okay, so that's pretty much where we're at right now. Now, as you can see, it lines up pretty solidly, and it's not going to touch to the side of the sleeve when I put it back on place. I'm going to kind of reconfigure that just a little bit. There we go. Now we're going to flip this around to the other side, and as you can see, I've got these two empty openings here for the side Allen screws. I'm going to put the bottom one in. Really super simple with this guy. I mean, it's pretty much stupid proof, you know what I'm saying? And some of us out there need that handicap. Now what we're going to do is take some solid cotton, and I'm going to wick this bad boy. Okay, so now I've got some cotton. This is probably way more than I need. Okay, that's probably more than I need too. So what I'm going to do is take this one wad and just kind of keep tearing this stuff in half until I've got a decent thickness. The length on this is sort of important because you got to remember, once I focus in on this bad boy here, okay, so this is going to go through the coil, but then it's going to go down each side into the tanks. So what I'm going to do now is thread this bad boy about as good as possible on camera. You want to get kind of a tight pinch just towards the end there. Okay. So see at this point how it goes all the way down and past the end? You don't really want that, okay? You want to make sure that the end of the cotton just barely kind of touches the bottom portion of this. So what I'm going to do is trim this off pretty solidly. Right about there. Okay, so there is that side. Now we're going to go over to this side and do exactly the same. I'm going to kind of speed this along for you though. You guys have all seen this kind of stuff before. Kind of looking like buckwheat on a bad day. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm actually going to take off the outer sleeve here. And I know this looks like I'm doing it the hard way, but really this is sort of the easiest way to do it. As you can see, these two little indentations on either side, as you guessed it, that is where the cotton goes. So we're going to take the cotton and just kind of work it down in there, just like so. And just kind of position it in those little indentations so they stay nice and tight. Get a little decent close-up. There we go. Okay, so you can see the height difference between the bottom one and the top one. Obviously, that is not going to be an issue once you get everything all nice and tidy in there. I'm actually going to take my Allen screw and just kind of give this a nice little tuck. I'm going to take this little sealer ring once again, and I'm going to just kind of gently work it over the coils. Slide it into position, finding that little indentation on the inside, and try not to get the cotton hanging out the side like it is on mine just a little bit. Okay, so this is pretty much how it's going to look at this point. Now what I'm going to do is take that little screw-on sleeve, position it over the coils, tighten it down, which is going to keep everything nice and secure. As you can see, everything is nice and tucked away, very clean. Now usually what I do is I kind of take the cotton and just give it a little bit of a wiggle at the opening positions. And what this is going to do is just kind of get it free, because a little bit of it is inevitably going to get screwed into the threading of this little outside sleeve piece, okay? And you want this to be just a little bit free so that when you put juice in it, it has an opportunity to wick up the cotton. Okay, so now what we're going to do is give this a solid saturation with some good juice, okay? So we're gonna pretty much do the standard typical soaky with the cotton. Okay, a little bit on that side. Okay, so we're decently saturated from the get-go. Now what you want to do is, with the amount of space that you have open, try and work yourself away from the cotton on the side filling holes. So basically what I'm going to do is it's always a good idea to take the cotton and push it to one side. You get a little bit of an opening space there. You see what I'm saying? Now you're going to have to kind of work with this just a little bit. And my advice, put the juice in very slowly. So what I'm going to do is fill both of the sides on this, kind of elapse time for you. And then what we're going to do is put the rest of this bad boy together, and we're going to give it a vape. Okay, so now as you can see, it is pretty fully saturated on both sides. Got the better part of 2 milliliters on each side. Now what I can do is, once that is soaked in there, and it'll soak up in the cotton just a little bit more as time passes, I'm just going to take this and sort of wick up the rest of the little white spots on the cotton, just to make sure that all of this gets nice and soaked in. Now at this point, what would be a good idea to do would be attach it to a good mod that you're using and give it a couple fires just to sort of settle in the liquid a little bit and get the wicking process moving. Okay, and then what I like to do after that is done, for a couple reasons, to continue the wicking process and just to make sure that the cotton does not burn. You're just going to go back and forth, okay, put a little bit of juice on the coils, fire it again, a little bit more juice on the coils, and then you're pretty much good to go. And then you're pretty much set and ready to go. Now, I know you guys are asking yourself, Joe, you said that these holes are pretty much open 24/7, okay? They are open 24/7, but they're not fully exposed, is probably what I should have said. So yes, they aren't. So yes, it is not going to spill, but however, if you do lay this on your side, you will be prone to having just a little bit of seepage, which is obviously something that you do not want. So at this point, we're fully loaded, okay? We've got some coils mounted, we've got some fresh cotton, and we're gonna bust this bad boy up, and I'm gonna show you what we can do with the Big Bear RDTA from EHPRO. Now here's the part that I did not touch base on when we were getting an in-depth close-up. As you can see, when I pointed out the two different little areas where you can put in the cotton below, what you do, in order to stop the flow of one of the sides of the tanks, or just to use one coil, you take this little rubber stopper that I pulled out before, and what you would do is you would position it right inside one of the sides of the slots, completely cutting off the liquid flow. Now here's the cool thing about this. Let's say you've got two different kinds of juice. Let's say you've got, let's keep it simple. Let's say you've got a strawberry flavor on one side and a sour flavor on the other. The cool thing, obviously, with this is that you're getting an equal wick from both sides at the same time, so you can mix and match flavors. That's where the DIY is coming from on this bad boy, okay? So whether or not you want to use the stopper and you just have a single coil, take out one of the coils or just don't put the other coil in there at all. Put the stopper in there, boom, that's where it's going to stay. It's very simple. I have tested that out before, but the 2 milliliter capacity on each side is fairly straightforward, as you can see. Now, with the side loading method, you're gonna get a decent amount of juice in there pretty much at any time. And the cool thing is, even if you do hold it upside down or sideways rather, it's really not gonna spill out. I mean, you know, the wicking is solid if you've done it right. Like I said, you wanna make sure that the cotton does not go fully and completely covering the bottom portion of each tank. If you can see in there, it just literally does reach barely the bottom portion of that. So what that's going to do is allow you with enough space on both sides to make sure that you've got enough volume in there to squirt in enough e-juice to your pleasure. Like I said, you just want to make sure that the cotton is thick enough to go through the coil, but not too thick that when you're pulling it through, it's not going to tear the cotton. Just reaching the bottom portion, barely touching of each 2 milliliter tank capacity on the side, leaving yourself enough volume to fill it up with as much liquid as you want. Now, I'm working this on a regulated device here that only has a pot on the side, so I'm busting this out at about 50 volts. Now, typically, I can use my regulated Vox mod that goes up to about 200 watts, and I can fire this up at about 80 to 85 watts. Now, that gives it a pretty solidly warm vape. You're getting a solid, consistent fire on this. Of course, a lot of that obviously depends on the type of coils that you're using, the quality of the coils, are really going to dictate the amount of intake that you get and a decent amount of flavor coming from the juice. Right here, I'm just going to open this up to full capacity and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about here. Now that is some solid cloudage right there. If that's not cloud for days, I don't know what is. Okay. Now the one thing that I have noticed about this is that you're going to go through juice at a pretty decent pace, especially for people like myself who vape a lot. I know a lot of you guys out there do, so make sure you've at least got a bottle of juice on. So overall, we're looking at a very solid design with the EHPRO Big Bear RDTA. Now, I don't have a US price point on this. I will get the US price point and definitely update this review with that as soon as EHPRO hits the US market just a little bit harder. When they got a hold of me, they actually told me that the US market was one that they are really looking to break into, and lucky for me, I had the opportunity to work with these guys. They've got some great devices coming up that I'm going to be releasing a little bit more, like I said, into the future. So if any of you guys have any questions on the EHPRO Big Bear RDTA, hit me up a comment in this comment section below, or get a hold of me on Instagram, give me a DM, and I'll try and give you as much information on this as possible. So that about wraps up this review of the EHPRO Big Bear RDTA. Later on this week, I'm going to be reviewing the 101 mod dripper tank device from EHPRO. That's going to be coming up pretty soon. I'm probably going to be shooting that this week. Hopefully I'll be able to release it on the same week, but you know, I mean, you never do know. Joe of All Vapes is kind of packed down with reviews lately, so I'll try and get this as expeditiously as possible. Spread the word here at Joe of All Vapes on YouTube. Definitely check me out on Instagram. I've got a ton of awesome discounts. If you haven't had the opportunity to check out my New Year's giveaway here on my YouTube channel, check the video section and please, by all means, enter that. It's a fat giveaway. 3 different people are going to win huge prizes. Everything but cash, guys. You know what I'm saying? This is some really good stuff. I've also got an awesome giveaway coming up with Zample Box. That's going to be on my YouTube channel as well. There's a Zample Box giveaway that's going to be coming up on Zample Box's Facebook page pretty soon that I'm going to be facilitating on as well. Thank you very much for joining me once again. This is Joe of All Vapes, your eye in that vaping sky, wishing you to stay humble. Love yourselves, love each other, and by all means, you keep it wonderfully, tastily, incredibly cloudy. Hey everybody, this is Joe of All Vapes. Thank you for watching. For the best in vape reviews, pound that subscribe button, and don't forget, vaping saves lives.